So hello everyone, and welcome to the second peer learning webinar of WEgate, the webinar dedicated to sharing good practices for women economic empowerment. And this webinar is actually a tribute from my side, from my wonderful panel of extraordinary ladies, to celebrating Women's Entrepreneurship Day that, as you know, is celebrated in 144 countries on the 19th of November, so at a global scale. My name is Gabriela Kostowska-Bogojska from the Foundation for Management and Industrial Research, one of the WEgate partners, and I'll be the moderator of today's event. My position within WEgate is actually that I'm responsible for managing the Community Council and for organizing the work around building this ground coalition around women entrepreneurship development on the European level. So as you can imagine, this position gives me a unique opportunity to be on a daily basis in contact with some of the top movers when it comes to women entrepreneurship support, not only at European, but also at global level. And to learn about different activities, practices that has made a difference or are still making a difference to women entrepreneurs in different countries and different regions. And in WEgate, that is what peer learning is all about. Finding these wonderful good practices from the community members and share it with the community. So from community to the community. And the idea is that we need to be inspired and motivated, but we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So finding these good practices that has made a difference in a given country or region, and then see whether they fit our development goals. So either replicate or multiply or just join a certain initiative that makes a difference. And in the WEgate context, when we look at women entrepreneurship development, we want to look at it from the broadest perspective. So if you have a look at the practices that we share at our events, at our webpage or study visits, you will see a variety of different practices. And we have a similar mixture today. I have a panel and I have the honor to have wonderful ladies joining me today, sharing different practices in different aspects of women entrepreneurship development process. They're all champions in their own right when it comes to women entrepreneurship and women entrepreneurship support, as you will see for yourself. And we are going to talk about lobbying and why lobbying is important and what are the tracks to avoid. Because if you want to make any change, not only system level change, but any change, we really need to master this discipline. We are also going to talk about the importance of commercial resilience, or how we can support our entrepreneurs in going international, finding partners and expanding their businesses in these difficult pandemic times. But we also need to remember that emotional resilience is also very important. And that is why we're going to address the well-being in time of insecurity. And because this is a peer learning webinar, it's all about good practices. So we're going to talk about some good practices in G20 countries, in the new region. So there will be very interesting information shared today. And we are going to wrap up with the Q&A session. So we are going to try to answer as many questions as possible. So I do invite you to use the chat function. You can use the chat function with Zoom, send your questions during all presentations, and then by the end of the webinar, we will try to answer your questions. So you can also use the Q&A functionality of Zoom. And one more thing before we move on is that this webinar is recorded, so you can have a look at it afterwards on the WEgate YouTube channel. Now, without a further ado, I would like to introduce to you our first speaker, Mrs. Amélie Leclercq. She is the board member of the European Women Lobby, so she's our specialist in lobbying. And we will start our webinar with her presentation. She has been representing this grand network, Business and Professional Women Europe, you know, BPW Europe, since 2014 in the board. And I'm also very pleased that since recently, she's also representing BPW Europe in our WEgate Community Council. So I'm really looking forward to all the different things that we are going to do together jointly within the council and beyond. She had an atypical career as a court administrator in the French justice system, but she made a crossover and now she's into the entrepreneurial field. And that is not a surprise considering for how long she has been dealing with different aspects of entrepreneurship. So she's also now a woman entrepreneur, not only supporting the women entrepreneurship ecosystem development, but also joining all those women entrepreneurs across Europe struggling on a daily basis in developing their businesses. So Amélie, thank you very much for joining us today. And please, the floor is yours. Just to unmute, Amélie.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction, Gabriela. And I chose a very provocative title, and I would like all women entrepreneurs to be lobbyists in their daily work life. So I am aware that women entrepreneurs have a lot on their plate. So how can we go about that? And why do we need to be lobbyists? Well, why do we need to be lobbyists? Because we have, for the past 20 years, not moved forward too much in terms of the impact of women entrepreneurs. We're still around 30–35% of women entrepreneurs, and mostly with smaller size companies. And as women entrepreneurs, when we are building our business case, we have to take stock of the specific structural issues which are hindering women in entrepreneurship. And we have to know about them, learn about them, and know how to face them. And we need to do that both individually and as a collective. So lobbying, what does it achieve? We want lobbying to increase the diversity of perspective. And if we increase diversity of perspective in our business, then we move towards an improved economical situation. However, this year has been a time of crisis. And we are aware as women that in times of crisis, there is always a backlash against women's rights in general, but also specifically this year in terms of women in the workplace. They are supposed to do it all, and some of our friends and colleagues had to stop working to look after the kids. And we need, in general, to push for implementation of women's rights in the workplace, that is for equality. And to achieve that, we need to increase the number of women in decision-making position. So you have to have yourself, as an entrepreneur, the tools to move towards decision-making position, not only your business, but also you have the right CV, the right outlook to become part of board of administration of large company. Why is it necessary to do all that? Because if we have equality in the workplace, we cannot just continue, business as usual. Because we have to fight against prejudice in all work sector. You know that they are very segregated. And remember also that learning to be a lobbyist about gender issue is also learning about oneself and fighting the prejudices we have in our heads. Because if prejudices were only in men's heads, we would be moving forward more rapidly. But in all of us, we have to look at that, or biases. We need to improve concretely the administrative, legislative context to encourage more women to become entrepreneurs. And to do that, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's work together to collect ideas, projects, and see how they're transferable in other contexts. So how can I lobby as an entrepreneur? If you add that as a task to all the other existing tasks you're doing, you're not going to achieve it. So it has to be some groundwork to all the activities that you are doing. It provides a framework. If you know that one of the specificities of your business is you're taking care of gender equality and you mainstream gender issues in your business, you have a grid analysis and you are moving to a more modern way of doing business than otherwise. You find allies with shared value. You build your own strategy for visibility and you work on yourself to have visibility on power structure, because on the psychological point of view, it is shown that sometimes women entrepreneurs do not trust themselves to be in power position. Do it. Adapt your business. It allows you to adapt your business to a changing society, and you're going to have fun in the meantime. Don't worry. So I have provided also some list of tools and resources that you can go to if you want concretely to have information and tools for lobbying, but I won't go in depth here. You have no time for lobbying. It's not an additional activity. In your everyday activity, you have the gender perspective, and it means that you see the gaps, you see the niche markets, you make a difference compared to your competitor. It's an additional point of view. So what are the objectives you need to keep in mind? All together, we need better infrastructure and scheme to help with care responsibility. Otherwise, we will maintain 30% women entrepreneurs. It will not change. And it starts in the family. So when you are looking at gender issue, you're also negotiating with your partner about shared responsibilities. So it's an everyday activity, lobbying. Better access to credit, that's a given. We all know as women entrepreneurs that funding of our activities going to the bank is a huge task. And we need to work together to educate the banking system, because they're not going to do it themselves. Okay, they're not going to do it alone. So we need, because we need to access to credit, we need to put this additional effort to have better access. Fighting against the pension gap. As women entrepreneurs, have you calculated what's going to be your pension? Have you spoken to your notary to put in place financial strategies, so when you stop working, you are in a good position, financial position, etc., etc. All these lobbying activities is also asking yourself the right questions, so you build a stable business and future. And of course, supporting women returning to the workplace, because amongst the women who are turning to entrepreneurship, we have a lot of women returning to the workplace. And unfortunately, at the moment, in terms of support at EU level for financial program for women entrepreneurs, they target a lot students, young women under 35. Let's not forget, we also need to support women returning to the workplace. So concrete topics for lobbying. You know, when you are discussing, when you are in the position to make a difference, we are pushing for women in decision-making position. So at the local level, it will be in the board of administration of the Chamber of Commerce, of the Trade Center, in your professional representation, whatever in your work sector there is in terms of organization. Because if there are no women there, then your specific issue as a women entrepreneur will not be taken into consideration. Gender budgeting in public budget is very important if we want the right care infrastructure. Social responsibility of enterprise is more and more often by law at national level a framework that can be used to push for more gender equality. And if we want to better look after women returning to the workplace, taking into consideration all their prior experience in the informal sector and formalizing it so it can appear on their CV is something very important, and you can work with your colleague on that. Right, so daily when you are meeting people, if you know the good practices, you can provide good example with your, you can influence your business partner. You are going to be the expert, the one who knows what exists in terms of toolkit, funding programs, how to integrate the gender perspective to make your project more appealing. You will be obviously campaigning for women candidates, and you could candidate yourself for board of administration. Please go ahead. Don't wait to have all the skills. You will learn by doing, okay? And you need to move also from the individual to the collective. Participate in several networks is a must as an entrepreneur. The men do it. They do it well, and we should be doing the same. Not exactly in the same way, but we need to have the networks in order to survive in a changing economy. We need you obtain different kind of information in different networks, and then you bring them together and you build a coherent whole. You need to be in the network in your work sector, but you need also to be in contact with entrepreneurs who are in other work sector, because you bring other skills and ideas to the table. And women networks bring shared value and can work with you. So in a world where information is key, women's organizations are there to help you learn by doing. You don't have all the skills. You will never have all the skills. Even when you retire, you will not know everything there is to know. It's impossible. So enjoy learning something new every day. Get other professionals' input on your project. Use mentoring, use coaching, build partnerships, and get information about European schemes to support women entrepreneurs. And that is for me, and I hope to share with you the discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Amélie. Thank you for sharing all these inspirational advices. What I like is that participate part. Participate part is very, very important for women entrepreneurs. And the motto, women entrepreneur as a lobbyist, that is something that we're also lacking, and that we really need to do it as part of our daily activities, and everyone in their own field of operation, and making a difference as much as possible. So thank you, Amélie, very much for your presentation. And I hope that we will have a lot of interesting questions that we can come back to it later. Now I would like to move on to our next speaker. We have with us Mrs. Yulia Stark, or Julia Stark. In this part of Europe, we will call her Yulia. So Yulia, welcome. She is the president of the European Women Association, and until 2009, she was a private banker. So you can imagine she was dealing with these investment portfolios of her wealthy clients, I guess. But then the financial crisis unfortunately hit, and I can freely say that this really had an effect on her business, I guess. But like in any other contrast in life, it was the same with this one. It ended one chapter of life, but started a new chapter in your life, I guess, Yulia. So you've changed your business career, not only establishing new businesses, but also introducing new philosophy in doing business. And one of the things that she's very passionate about is work-life balance. And that's how in 2013, this unique Feminism and Business Academy was born. So this is an academy that supports women entrepreneurs to start and run their businesses, but in a mindful way. And as of 2020, she's gathering professionals, organizations, and other stakeholders around the European Women Association, focusing on many things, but I would emphasize three important aspects that they're doing in their operation, and that is supporting women in access to funding, number one barrier for women entrepreneurs, mentoring, also mentioned by Amélie, the importance of mentoring. We really have to work on it, and networks, access to networks. So this is very much in line with what Amélie emphasized in part of her presentation: participate and get involved. And European Women Association is supporting women entrepreneurs in that regard. But I will leave that to Yulia to present it, because I'm very confident that she can share more information about that, and also to tell us a little bit more on how we can progress better by slowing down. So Yulia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. I think you did my presentation.
No.
No, but very well said. Thank you. And yes, every word that Amélie was sharing, yeah, I would like to support as well, because as Gabriela said, my background is in private banking. I was the only female and the youngest female. So already by then I experienced the challenges many of my female colleagues faced. So yes, financial crisis hit, and quite hard, and maybe you know and remember the Coopting Bank. I used to work for an Icelandic bank, and this was an experience by itself. So this is where you learn during the crisis about resilience, about mindset, about well-being. And now we are back 10 years later in a similar situation when the crisis hit. And again, we are challenged to think differently. So this year, in the last 10 years, after my banking career, I've been working on acceleration program for female founders. Later, together with Google and Women Will programs, we made sure that we support women internationally, starting in Brussels, then in London, to inspire them, to show them role models, how you can become and start your own business. You don't have to be a unicorn. You don't have to be millionaire. It's not about that. It is about the impact. And this is like, in short, just a snapshot of what we've been doing for the last 10 years. Yearly, we'll be organizing international conferences in London to empower and reward women from different categories with beautiful awards. And we've been supported by the best companies. They are Google, Deloitte, Facebook, MasterCard, Microsoft, because also they see the importance of female leadership in corporate, but also in entrepreneurship. Well, I'm based now in Belgium. I don't travel that much, but once a year, we take our tribe and we travel to Bali. Why Bali? Because this is the place where we don't talk only about our business canvas or about the business plan and the numbers and the funding. We also slow down to see, all right, but what about my family? Do I see my kids? Am I present as a woman and not only as an entrepreneur? So a very interesting process of acceleration programs. And now with European Women Association, we mainly focus on mentoring, as Gabriela said, because we do need that. We need to learn to ask for help. We need more role models. That's why I really hope more women here on this call will share their successes. And for example, working with Google, we've learned there is a program and it's called #IamRemarkable. Please go on LinkedIn, check it out. It is a program that empowers women to share their successes, to share more why they are good in what they are doing, and write that down once in a while. Because Google did the research, and apparently, like Amélie said, women don't take the positions. They don't really go for it because they wait till they know everything. And then we've got guys, our colleagues, they will go even if they only have 60% of the skills. So Google is saying now, let's not forget to remember one thing. It's not bragging if it's a fact. If you're great, if you're talented, it's not bragging. Please share more because other women need to see your skills. And then networking. Networking is, I think that's why we supported and joined WEgate. Networking now even more important than before pandemic. Having these connections, international connections, is very, very important because we do support each other with different organizations. And that's why European Women Association was founded more to see how can B2B collaborate and support our communities and tribes. And then of course, funding. Yes, my banking, I have a banking background, but again, now I mainly focus on collaborations with business angels. And we do that through the World Business Angel Forum, where we have around 96 countries collaborating and investing, and they do look for female founders. They do, but again, we are not always that visible. So now we are connecting every partners through our membership platform. But again, it's a work in progress. Before that, it was all offline. We had to move online. We have to pivot. Challenging though, and that's why I come to this most important topic is mindfulness in times of crisis. And it has nothing to do with spirituality or religion. I'm talking really about science. I'm talking really about why you need to become more mindful of your thoughts. Because what we've seen in the last 6 months, I've been approached by different accelerators, organizations, and quite successful entrepreneurs saying that they're losing focus. They don't have the creativity. There's something wrong with them. They don't know where they're going. And different studies have been showing that the reason why we don't have the focus is because of the cortisol, the stress level in our brain that actually triggers us to survive instead of think clearly. So stress doesn't really help you to pivot your business, doesn't really help you to build something sustainable, because we are too often in this survival mode. And my invitation for you today is just, first of all, invite you to tap into your feminine energy or feminine emotional intelligence. Why? Just look at the evolution. So we have different revolutions in the last few hundred years, all led by linear thinking and technology. And as we know, mainly led by men. And there is nothing good or bad about that. I just want to show you that it's our time, because we had the first industrial revolution, we had the steam invented and the trains. Then 100 years later, we had electricity. Then we had, finally in the 90s, we had the computers, again, bright men sitting down, having all these algorithms, and it was very needed and it was great. And then we had, now we can call it, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, where we have this artificial intelligence and technology moving so fast, and because of pandemic, even faster than before. And what we've seen, that most of technology is quite linear thinking, and a lot of things can be automated right now. But what computers or technology cannot replace is the emotional intelligence we women, most of us, naturally have. Something that was evolved in the a few 100,000 years, and this is something we really need to tap into, because now working, connecting, collaborating, training, mentoring, this is something we are very naturally good at. And I'm talking about statistics right now. We do have exceptions, but just now realizing that your emotional intelligence is needed much more than any other skill, technical one that you may think. So why now being mindful? Well, again, this is not something new. Over 5,500 years, people have been mindful about the thoughts and the way they're living. Since 1960s, over 1,500 scientific studies proved the benefits of becoming mindful, how that actually releases stress. And many of Silicon Valley companies, or even our partner Deloitte, they have meditation rooms where you can go and meditate for 15 minutes during the working hours. And why is that important? Is because most of our results, let's just take as example the professional results, they are results of our thinking, right? But if you just realize that there are around 50,000 thoughts a day in average, 80% of them are negative. This is how our mind is wired. And 95 are repetitive, 88 unconscious. So are not my numbers. It's Scientific Institute that published them in US, but it's just for us to become aware that our thoughts do lead to certain actions, and becoming aware of our thoughts. And that's why I said, slow down, you will progress even faster professionally, as an example, will help you to take distance from stress or any negative emotion that's happening with most of us right now. So slow down, you'll progress even faster. How exactly we will do that? This is like a chart, what happens in your brain. And there is a book, an amazing book written by Stephen Kotler, and it's a best-selling book, and the name is Stealing Fire. He writes about science behind flow in your brain, because most of the creative, amazing stuff happen when you're in a certain mental state of flow. The reality is that 90% of our time, we are in the beta state of our brain waves, meaning there's a lot of activity, a lot of peaks and downs, and it's more about short-term achievement, just getting things done, having your kids, getting them ready to school, having a business meeting, another Zoom meeting. We are most of the time in our brain in a beta state. This is not where magic happens. Magic scientifically happens when we are in the alpha, at least, state of mind, meaning when your brain activity is a bit slower, when the blood flows goes both in the left and right brain hemisphere, and there is more connection. And then suddenly you get answers to the challenges you've been facing in the last weeks or months. So my invitation for you to slow your brain, we'll do it, I'll show you in a minute how, but once you go into alpha or theta state, you produce dopamine, serotonin. It's all the happy hormones that help you think more creatively and solution-driven. And not only from the survival point of view. The numbers you see, 7 to 12, is actually the age of children. Between 7 and 12, children are naturally in the alpha state. From 0 to 7 years old, they're in the theta state. Now, when we are adults, you can measure your theta waves when you're in a deep meditative state. Most of us are not there. And then we got delta. This is when you just snore and sleep. So we don't want to go there, but try to go during the day into your alpha state, because again, science has shown that actually helps you to get answers done, or get the answers for the challenging you are facing in this pandemic. Another step towards being more centered and less stressed and more mindful is when you're in the state of flow, you activate creativity. And aren't all crises, in a way, a good opportunity to have a creative solution to your challenge you're facing right now? And how can you actually trigger flow and creativity? You know already what I'm just saying right now. Just try to practice it during the week, is get physical activities. And again, something you like, all right? It can be yoga, it can be jogging, walking, dancing. I love to dance. It looks very strange when I'm in my office, but it does really help. Create something, like literally. We are quite busy, I know. But creating something, it can be painting, making, cooking, baking, whatever, because that, again, brings you from your mind into your body. Spend time outside, oxygen, again, very well for your brain. Morning rituals, whatever that may be, just don't take your cell phone or whatever your news on, because that, again, releases too much stress hormone and doesn't really help you to start your day from a creative perspective. By the way, morning ritual is having a cold shower. Science said that you actually detox your brain and your body by having a 30-second cold shower. Just try that out. Activate your 5 senses. You know that, again, if you eat, please be mindful how it tastes, how it smells, and breathe mindfully. Because we all know how to breathe, but we all breathe quite superficially. Just if you will feel it right now, you will probably be not breathing fully with your belly. And that sends a signal to your brain that there is a danger if you're not breathing fully. And that always, again, produces this cortisol hormone, stress hormone, saying you need to be careful and need to survive. And this is not a reality. You don't need to survive every minute of the day. So please, by breathing, and I literally just put a reminder in my cell phone every hour to breathe for 1 minute. It would be just like a reminder, breathe. And I'll just stop with everything. I will breathe for 1 minute. Girls, it's not easy, but it does. After a few days, you will feel the difference. Please try it out. I'm not asking you to do much, but again, that's science. I didn't invent that, but it really, really works to reactivate your brain and use it positively. And then again, clarity comes through imagination. Several researches have been done that if you don't know how to get somewhere from point A to B, you don't know the steps, you just start to see it, to feel it, and use your 5 senses. Meaning your brain is quite smart. If you're here and you want to get there, you don't know how, but you visualize vividly, like it's your dream, like in your dreams, you do that automatically, by the way, where you are going. You know that your brain builds the neural connections and the steps to get there. Very strange. It's called actually the reticular activating system, the RAS. You can Google it. It's just such a cool process of your brain that actually it serves you like a focus. There is so much going on, but again, it doesn't always serve you to get professionally where you want to be. So by really making time and seeing and feeling, understanding why you want to be in a certain point of view, your brain will fill in the gaps. I don't have much time to really discuss about the study that has been done about that, but I can always share it with you later. And the last thing to remember, ladies or gentlemen, I'm not sure who's on the call, don't forget it's 80-20. And by 80, I mean 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. I've seen in the last 6 months that most of the business owners, female founders that I work with, they're really focusing on the 20% of the technical part, like, okay, how do I monetize? How do I build my e-commerce? How do I use targeting? But actually it's focus more on the 80%, because that will help you to stay focused. That will help you to stay in a sane state of mind to find the solutions if you don't have them. You become much more resilient and much more result oriented if you focus on the first well-being of your mind, the way you start and think and feel, and the 20% becomes much more easier through mentorship or to asking for help. You don't have to, again, like Amélie said, to do everything by yourself. I think my 15 minutes are up, ladies. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name. I would love to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia, for sharing this presentation with us. And it was quite inspirational, considering that many studies shows that focus is a tool for creation. So where your focus is that where you're heading. So if you cannot focus right, you will not get those 20%. So as you mentioned, this is science. It's about wiring, but also rewiring what's happening in our head. So for all habit, there is a new habit that can replace the old one, and we can move on. And this is emotional resilience is, I guess, not important only in this pandemic era, but in work-life balance in general. So we need to work on it. And I will start with the breathing part, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'll share with you the results after a couple of days.
Please do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are moving on to another topic. We are going to talk about one very interesting network, the Enterprise Europe Network, one of the largest business support networks, I can say not only in Europe, but beyond Europe, because it is present in many countries. And for that, we have the honor of having Mrs. Federica Leonetti. She is the chair of the sector group within Enterprise Europe Network, sector group dealing with textile and fashion, quite interesting sectors. She has a background in political sciences and has done many different other degrees. I cannot remember all of them, but I know they're related to media, to public relations, to international affairs. So really, she has invested a lot of time and energy in that. But what is even more relevant for us today is her excellent background as international business advisor. So companies come to Federica when they want to find partners abroad, when they want to access funding, when they want to participate in a certain trade mission. And one of the main tools in that job are, of course, matchmaking events, B2B events. And one such event is Torino Fashion Match. We all know and expect this event every year in the part of the Torino Fashion Week. Designers, manufacturers, women entrepreneurs, workshops. It's from all over the world, and it's quite interesting. But for me, it is also very, very important that Federica is not only being a member of the sector group of textile and fashion from 2013, I think so. She's also the chair of this sector group, which is one of the efforts that we have to make Enterprise Europe Network not only a network of excellence, professional network providing business support services, but also gender sensitive network where we have women, more and more women on this leading positions and chair positions. So that is also another important aspect in our operation as Enterprise Europe Network. So Federica, thank you very much for joining us today. She is going to present us more about the Enterprise Europe Network, and we are looking forward to learn more about fashion and textile. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Gabriela. You told a lot of things already. So nice to be with you. Thanks for inviting me. As already said, I'm working within Union Camere Piemonte, that is the regional union of the Chamber of Commerce in my region. And we support small and medium enterprises to grow and to innovate. We are a member of the Enterprise Europe Network. The network it's spread worldwide, so not only in the European member state, but also in third countries and all over the world. The network helps businesses to innovate and to grow. In fact, it's the world's largest support network for SMEs within international ambitions. So just to to let you know a few things about the network. The network is a key instrument in the EU strategies to boost jobs and growth. It was launched in February 2008 by the European Commission, and it's co-financed by the European Commission under two programs, COSME and Horizon 2020 programs. So it's a very huge a project to give support to small enterprises and to companies. Here some fact sheet about the network. We have more than 3,000 local experts around the world in more than 60 countries. So we have more than 600 locations, EN offices. How can we do this? We combine the local knowledge of our region, of our clients and companies with international business expertise, helping each other through the network to find the right solution and the right services to help them to grow and to innovate. Here, just a few examples of 3 big groups of services that we can provide within the network. So from one side, we have the international partnership, then we have the advisory support and innovation support. Just to summarize very quickly, the international partnership, for the international partnership, we give services related to searching of partnership, for example, commercial or technological partnership. We have a database, a partnership database, where clients can upload business offer or a request related to their needs. We organize brokerage events and company mission. And then we have the advisory support services related to all the information on EU policies or funding schemes or laws or specific teams. And then the innovation support, like the innovation management services. So it's a very huge network where you can have free access to a very wide range of advisory services. And it works. We have very satisfied clients. We counted that SMEs who use the network grow on average of 3% points more than those who don't. So it's a very huge tool if you wish to boost your business to find international collaborations. Here just an overview of 10 years of work of services of the network. And then we arrive to the key point of the Enterprise Europe Network. Within the Enterprise Europe Network, we have 70 key sectors that you can see there, where you can see also the textile and fashion sector group that I coordinate since 4 years now. Within these sector groups, colleagues and experts from the network team up to create new activities and new initiatives to be provided to clients, like services or events or company mission in a specific way. So in that way, we can be very focused on their needs, on what they are looking for, so we can find for them the right partner to grow and to innovate internationally. Here is my group, the sector group. We are 31 members from more than 20 countries. There is a link of the brochure. If you have time, I can leave the presentation so you can see it. The main activities that we provide within the sector group, as I said, the brokerage events, company mission, workshops, and information related to EU policies. So the objectives is to create synergies worldwide. Some example related to the brokerage event, where I outline the most important one event we organize, and it's the 5 years now. It's the fashion match event. For this event, the sector group has been awarded by the European Commission in 2019 with an award as a best practice through the network, because it was the best practice of the whole sector groups. We created this format, organized twice a year, in 2 different locations, in 2 different events, but with the same objectives. So clients already knows that in 2 different periods of the year, they can attend a huge event where they can find international connections. So one is organized in Amsterdam, in January during the fashion fair, the Mode Fabrique, and the other one is organized in Torino in June during the Torino Fashion Week. Here are some example of workshops team we combine with the brokerage event within this format, this fashion match. And here we come to the 2020 edition we concluded in October right now in Torino. It was a digital edition, of course, due to the health emergency we are living. The B2B has been realized digitally as the workshops and the Torino Fashion Week as well. During this edition, we focus on gender equality and on women entrepreneurship, because beside the sustainability and digitalization factor, we know that the condition of women is very important to be outlined during this period, and especially within the fashion industry is very important. We hosted the society from UK. She's connected with the Bangladesh group of people who work within the fashion industry, and it was very interesting to know more about this situation, because as we all know, in the Asian part, women are employed in especially women are employed in the fashion industry, and the conditions are very, very tricky. So it's very important when we talk about sustainability to talk not only about the circular economy and how the product should be more circular in terms of creation of a new design that could be recyclable, but sustainable means also well-being, good working condition and social conditions. So this part was very important to give relevance on women, especially in the fashion industry, to give inputs in that way. And we decided to insert this in our event because the event has a huge visibility. It is an international event promoted through the world network, but also through the channels of the Torino Fashion Week, that is international media channel. So it was very important to focus on that part. We had another panel on gender equality with interesting speakers worldwide. So I just would like to focus on this event, the Torino Fashion Week, where we realize our brokerage event that is an international independent and innovative format addressed to brands and small and medium enterprises, young fashion designers who need to be noticed and who need to go international, to have international connection, to grow and to boost their ambitions. We had a huge evolution in 5 years, in the same way for the B2B as for the Fashion Week, because we started 5 years ago with 90 participants, and we arrived in 2020 with 500 participants from all over the world. So it was a very, very huge event. And this year we are very proud also because we hosted an international organization, the Dress for Success, that is working with the vulnerable groups, and especially with women who decided to create their own job in the fashion industry, creating new brands. So thanks to this collaboration, we hosted 40 brands from the Balkan region, managed by women. So it was a very interesting collaboration, and it was very important for them because the events, this kind of events, can help brands to create an international partnership. It's a very huge potential, and they can have great visibility, international visibility. But of course, it's not only addressed to women, but it's addressed to all the manufacturing companies who are dealing with textiles. It's just an overview of what happened in the end of the event, because the partner of the event was a very important national store, fashion store in Torino. They awarded 5 brands managed by women, and so they had the opportunity to showcase and to sell within the store. So it was very important and very successful points for them. And this is just an overview of their showcasing. So about the fact sheets of the Fashion Week, in 5 years, the Fashion Week hosted 358 fashion designers from all over the world. And this year we had more than 1 million of visualizations, digital visualizations. And for the fashion match, we hosted more than 1,000 participants. And this year was very huge because we had 100 here and host organizations who promoted the event worldwide. And then I just would like to leave you with the video of the event of the B2B. It's just 2 minutes video, if I can share with you now. Gabriela, if you allowed me to share it, just to let you live this experience for a while.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay, so that's it. I thank you for this opportunity. So we are going to organize, to plan the new edition of this event. So we are working to give all the international clients the opportunity to grow, to boost their business, and to get the international connections. So if you need more details, I'm at disposal to get in contact with you.
Thank you, Federica. Thanks a lot. Just a small information. As you presented, there are 17 sector groups, and one of the sector groups is Women Entrepreneurship sector group, which I'm part of. And I must say that we have been supported by other sector groups as well, and the Textile sector group is one of them. So thank you very much for that, because we are also trying to do something new in the Enterprise Europe Network, because women entrepreneurship as such is not a sector by itself, if you look at it from that point of view. But with the persistence of our members, and with the support of all the other sector groups, including Textile, ICT, I don't want to leave anyone out because they're really all forthcoming. We have managed to have the sector group, but not only running, but also being supported. So we organize different events together, because the idea about business partnership of women entrepreneurs is that we don't see that women do business only with women. Of course not. Women do business with whomever they decide to do so and what is good for their business. And that's why we very much appreciate what other sector groups are supporting all of our activities, and introducing this gender workshop, gender equality related workshops and everything like that, because we really need to raise awareness within our everyday job. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for the presentation. I will just finish this part by saying that I invite women entrepreneurs to really use the services of Enterprise Europe Network. It does not cost anything. They're free of charge. They're out there at your proximity. There is no region where you don't find an office. Everywhere you have an office. So you just reach out to your advisors, and if you need assistance in access to finance. So as Amélie mentioned, as Yulia mentioned, as Federica presented, go everywhere, go in every single network. Enterprise Europe Network is paid by your tax money. So go there and ask for services and use them as you're going to use the services from European Association of Women or WEgate or anyone else. So thank you, Federica, for reminding us about that and the importance of using these services. Now, we are moving on with our next guest. This is Mrs. Virginia Littlejohn. And if I have to present her, then it will take a lot of time, because she has done so many different things in her long-lasting career as, I can say, a lobbyist for women entrepreneurs. She is at the moment co-founder and president of the Quantum Leaps, a business accelerator, a company based in US, working on different initiatives across the world. But she is one of the 3 architects of the Business Ownership Act, the big bang of the women entrepreneurship development in US. It was accepted by the President Reagan in 1988. So she's one of those architects. She used to be a president of the National Association of Women Owners in US. She's one of the leading consultants now working on different initiatives connected to women entrepreneurship with OECD, with International Trade Center. As Amélie mentioned, this center, it's quite active in women entrepreneurship development. This is a joint agency between the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, the International Trade Center. One of the things, for instance, that we are working at the moment, led by this center together with the Swedish Institute for Standards, is making finally a definition for women-owned and women-run businesses. That will be our big bang, because once we have the definitions, it's going to be standardized, hopefully, according to ISO, then we can seek for better strategies for international comparable statistics and things like that. So I hope that this will happen very, very soon. We have a next workshop in December. So one of the creators of these technical papers is Virginia Littlejohn, not to mention many other things she is involved in. So you can have a look at her resume at the Quantum Leaps website. Quite an inspiration to all of us. And because of the time difference, and she's based in US, she was not able to join us now on this event, but we have a video message from her. The main focus of this video message is on what they are doing in US, but also on what they're planning to do as part of W20. W20 is a working group for supporting women entrepreneurship development through a policy dialogue as part of G20 initiative. The G20, the largest economies in the world. So there is a working group, and she's the chair of this working group, and she will share with us what will be their priorities for 2021, so that we can, of course, establish collaboration and see how we can join forces with them as well. So if we can now just share the message from Virginia to our participants.
Hello. I'm Virginia Littlejohn. This is a panel from the W20's Women's Entrepreneurship Working Group, of which I'm the chair. At this summit, we're announcing the kickoff of a showcase of women entrepreneurial best practices, peer learning networks, and emphasizing the importance of advocacy and coalition building, including with regard to COVID. The MasterCard review of Women's Entrepreneurship 2019 had 3 of the G20 countries in their top 10, the US, Canada, and the UK. Because stakeholders in these countries collaborated closely for several decades and shared models, strategies, and good practices, it's not a surprise that these countries all scored high on MasterCard's rankings. Our working group wants to do the same thing across all W20 countries. In the United States, we created the National Association of Women Business Owners in 1975. We organized public affairs days to learn about public policy and first became political players with the 1986 White House Conference on Small Business. There, we had 12% of the delegates, 15 of the state chairs, wrote a publication called Framework for the Future and got 26 of our 27 policy recommendations adopted. This initiative was entirely based on strategy and was not women-focused. It was designed to give women entrepreneurs visibility and credibility. In 1988, NAWBO organized legislative hearings on women's entrepreneurship and helped craft legislation that got the Census Bureau to count all women-owned businesses, created 5 demonstration projects to train women entrepreneurs, made it possible for a woman entrepreneur to get a loan in her own name without a state being able to require that a male relative co-sign the loan, and created the National Women's Business Council to provide recommendations to the legislature, the head of the Small Business Administration, and the President of the United States. The legislation passed almost unanimously. The Women's Business Ownership Act of 1988 is often called the Big Bang of women's entrepreneurship in the U.S. because so much of our women's business ecosystem grew out of that legislation. With the assistance of superb research done by academic researchers and the Center for Women's Business Research. One of the 5 demonstration projects became the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, which certifies women entrepreneurs for corporate and public procurement. Another became the Women's Presidents Organization for multi-million-dollar women-owned companies. Also, the 5 demonstration projects turned into more than 100 women's business centers located around the country, which have given birth to hundreds of thousands of women-owned businesses. The National Women's Business Council has provided leadership and trailblazed in dozens of areas, often in collaboration with Women Impacting Public Policy, or WIP, which grew out of NAWBO. Early next year, we'll be launching our showcase on women entrepreneurial best practices, several peer learning networks, including one on public procurement and another on COVID recovery strategies for women-owned businesses. We'll also have programming that emphasizes the importance of advocacy and coalition building. Our objective is to accelerate women's enterprise development and to keep countries from having to reinvent the wheel. Thank you very much. And I recommend that we clap for ourselves since we're virtual instead of in Riyadh.
Yeah, it was quite inspiring to listen to Virginia. She has a vast experience, and I'm very sorry that she was not able to join us. But I do hope that soon we will be able to have a follow-up discussion with her in another format. She reminded us of the importance of having a strategy when we want to achieve something, and that's why lobbying and advocacy and knowing not only we discuss a lot, but we also need to know where we are going to convey those key messages, when, how we are going to do that. And that's why I think that we have to work a little bit that on the strategic part. And it is also very much the plans for 2021 of the W20 around best practices, advocacy, coalition building, and peer learning networks. We will definitely follow up on that and see whether and how we can collaborate and introduce them to our peer learning activities. And of course, there will be a best practices stocking process that we are going to have a look at and see how we can connect our efforts with the W20 efforts. And mentioning now the good practices leads me to our next speaker. We have with us Mrs. Maria Zlateva. She is the project coordinator and financial manager from the Regional Agency for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Varna, RAPIF. I will call it RAPIF, it's easier for me. She has more than 15 years of experience in entrepreneurship support, so mainly focusing on youth and women entrepreneurship, and she has a real hands-on experience when it comes to providing business support services. She was helping numerous startups from the business incubator and larger from the network of RAPIF in budgeting, accountancy, all those burdens that startups face when they're starting and scaling their businesses. And she has a vast experience in support services. Here we have her in the capacity of project coordinator of one very interesting project, is Women in Business project. It's a large-scale project for the Danube region. The Danube region, I know that Maria is going to present a little bit more information, but for us it's quite important because it gathers different types of economies, and now we are going to hear about different types of activities and best practices that has made a difference in different regions, in different countries. And it is interesting that the project is focusing on many important aspects, from policy agenda through real support to women entrepreneurs, to establishing different support centers. But I will not go into detail. I will leave that to Maria. Maria, thank you very much for joining us. So welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gabriela. First of all, I would like to thank you these kind words and presenting ourselves and inviting us, joining in the event and giving us possibility to present our projects dealing with best practices for women entrepreneurship in the Danube region. What I'm going to talk about now is to present, to say a few words about the Women in Business project, what we achieved so far, and to share, as you exactly said, some best practices from this Danube region. First of all, who we are. We are actually a consortium of 14 project partners from different countries from Danube region. Actually, Regional Agency for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Varna, or RAPIF, is the leader of this consortium, and we managed to gather different types of organization on board to deal with this important issue. As you can see, here are involved business support organizations, private companies, university, regional agencies, sectoral agencies, even public authorities. All of us are dealing with specific issues on entrepreneurship or focused on women entrepreneurship. And we gathered because we knew that there is a problem. There is a problem with the women entrepreneurs in the Danube region. As it was already said, only 30% of the women are actually self-employed, and only 30% of them are startups. We knew that there is a very low level of viability of the female startups, that only 2% of them last more than 42 months. And we knew that actually the low level of young women, there is a low level of young women willing to start businesses in our countries, which are involved in this project. And we continued with knowing what are the barriers and what are the challenges faced by these women, and found that there are different types, as you can see, of such barriers. Therefore, we did this project, which is implemented under Danube Transnational Program and is focused on fostering young women entrepreneurship in the region. It lasts for 36 months and actually is expects to end next year. And the project budget is 2 million and covers 9 out of 13 countries of this specific region. So our main idea is actually to increase the competencies and skills of young women entrepreneurs. And when we talk about young women entrepreneurs, I here should say that this is actually the girls from 15 to 34 years old. This is exactly our target group. And we decided to increase these competencies through firstly making survey analysis, comparison of needs and barriers and policy measures available in the Danube region. Then we decided to identify good practices to address the specific gaps identified in the survey. As you said, we also continue our work in policy improvement by viable policy agenda. We wanted to develop training models to improve the skills and competencies of young women, and to provide these training models, consulting and mentoring services through women entrepreneurship centers established in the countries of the Danube region. So far, we did quite a lot of work as we are almost in the third year of our project. We made national studies of the current states in 9 countries involved in the project. They include surveys of young women who are entrepreneurs or would like to become entrepreneurs, to find out their needs and challenges. Additionally, we had interviews with the stakeholders and with successful women who managed to establish and run successful business. The findings were consolidated in the transnational study of the current state, and then we prepared analysis of the policies and legislative framework in order to check what is the condition of the available policies measure for support of young women entrepreneurs. The project continued with identification and evaluation of good practices for support. We prepared a huge database of good practices, 43 we managed to identify in our countries. 10 of them, best 10 of them were gathered in the good practice handbook. And additionally, we upload in our project webpage, Get Inspired section, where we uploaded information for successful young business women. Based on all the information that we gathered, we prepared 3 training models in 3 directions, 3 levels. The first one is for beginners. Actually, this is girls without any business experience and without established business. The next training level is intermediate one for girls with established companies, but having experience only from 1 to 3 years. And advanced level is for the girls who has companies and are experienced more than 3 years. These training models were pilot tested during 2 pilot actions in these centers which we established during the project. And actually the second edition of our pilot actions ended just a few weeks ago. We managed to involve more than 240 girls in the piloting. And from feedback that we got from them, they were quite satisfied from the trainings, from the webinars, from the platform that they used, and for the training materials that they managed to reach through the platform. And currently we are preparing this policy agenda, which includes recommendations for improvement of the policy measures, as not only training is important, but we think that the policy should also be influenced from the good practices that we gathered. Focusing now on the good practices process in our project, we passed through several steps. I already explained a few of them. When we talk about identification and collection of the good practices, we wanted to find the most relevant ones. That means that the good practice should be focused on the training needs and challenges faced by young women entrepreneurs identified already in our analysis. They have to be focused also, or some of them to be focused on the policy measures for providing support to young women entrepreneurs. or to provide other type of support which we didn't group in another level. They should be significant or to have a broad impact and to be quite successful for women entrepreneurs. The other important thing was that these good practices has to be transferable. In other words, that it will be easy to transfer them directly in the other project countries or in our training modules and policy agenda. Then all the project partners observed and evaluated the good practices, and as a result, as I already mentioned, 43 of them were identified. All of them are included in our database, which is also available on the project webpage. And the 10 best of them, which received the highest score, are presented and showcased in a good practice handbook. It is also available on the project webpage. Now it's in English, soon in other languages. So we could go and check all the best practices gathered by us. Here is a very detailed list of these 10 best practices included in the handbook. As you can see, they're from all the countries from the Danube region. But I'm not going in details of all of them. I choose only 2 good practices. One is specifically related with training needs. And another one is focused on policy measures. So I'm going to present very briefly both of them, and more details you can find, as I said, on our project webpage in both documents. So the first one is GrowF, the accelerator for female-led ventures. It is initiated by Female Founders Global. This organization is from Austria. The good practice started in October 2018 and it's still ongoing. It is important to be said here that Female Founders Global actually is an organization that is working not only on this program, but they have other initiatives, other programs. But we selected only this one because we think that it complies to the needs and specifics for our project. So under this good practice, actually, Female Founders Accelerator provides training and support to women who are in a startup phase. The important thing in this good practice is that this company should have at least one female founder, which means that it could also involve men. Anyway, it's oriented to women entrepreneurs. During this program, they provide training sessions and meetings with experts and trainers. It's a 3-month program online. During the program, those who are selected to attend receive individual support, matching with mentor, and a whole range of support activities. So far, 3 batches are completed of this program. As you can see from the pink color results, they managed so far to help more than 550 female companies and to provide them with support. I think that now it's open the 4th batch. So everybody who is interested could apply. The application is online and you can do it directly from their webpage. The figures which are on the bottom of the page are actually for the results they achieved during their activities in all programs and initiatives providing. As you can see, they managed to support more than 5,500 girls. And in their network, they have available more than 80 mentors who can support young women in their business start and development. So I think that this good practice is one of the best in our database. Another good practice related with the policy measures is a pilot program, Women in Business, exactly as is the title of our project, but they are not related. It's by coincidence, actually. The owner of the good practice is Organization for Small and Medium Sector Development, Moldova. This is actually a sectoral agency under the Ministry of Economy of Moldova. In their quality, they received very big support by the Ministry of Economy. which provided financial and non-financial support to women in business through grant support for investment and through providing training and other type of support. The target group in this program is women only from Moldova. So its geographical focus is only national. In these 3 years of implementation of this program, you can see they managed to support women with business ideas and zero experience by providing them training and guidance to plan and to launch own business. On the next level, they also support women with less than 2 years business experience by providing them, besides the training and guidance, small scale investment and expert support. As well, they provide a grant of 7,500 euro. In some cases, when start the business, this is very important to have such financial support. And on the third side, they support active companies registered more than 2 years. In this case, they provide advisory support and large-scale investment under grant of 75,000 euro. So with this pilot program, they managed to cover all type of businesses run and led by women and to support them. The achieved results are very significant, having in mind this is a national program. You can see that they managed to provide more than 2 million euro in support as a grant, and they managed to support more than 800 companies and quite a lot of women, and a lot of jobs were created with support of this program. In this regard, we think that this is one of very successful policy measure for support women entrepreneurs. And that was my last slide. My presentation was very short one. Here are our contact details. Ms. Ralica Žekova is Executive Director of RAPIF and the Project Manager of the project, and my details. Here is also the link to our Women in Business project webpage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. We had one question, but I guess you already answered it in the last slide, where they can find the handbook of good practices. I guess is available on the website.
Yes, exactly.
And I have one follow-up question about the call from the female founders global. Does it have any restraints when it comes to geographical origin of the company? So
no, it's open. From its international code, and everybody could apply. It doesn't matter of the countries.
So, thank you very much for that. And it was quite interesting to see how a well-tailored policy measure can also make a huge difference in supporting women entrepreneurs. And that is also interesting for some of the policy actors following our presentation today, but also following what we are doing in our coalition building activities. So thank you for choosing 2 different types of measures that might be inspirational for different type of stakeholders. Thank you very much for that. Now we can move on to our Q&A session, so that we can discuss some of the questions that we have for our panelists. So I will start with one question relating to lobbying activities. So Amélie, once again, I will start with you. And my question is based on your experience. Why do some lobbying activities fail? What do you think? I've seen a lot of groups trying to do difference on national level, trying to do some difference on project level or on a coalition level, but they somehow don't manage to achieve the desired results. Do you have just a feeling or an opinion on what might be the main trap?
If you stick to only one network, you're limiting your potential. And it's very important if you really have one clear objective, to build coalition and partnerships. So you have your own network, you have your own objective and values, etc. But if you put in your plan of action very clear objective, you can find allies, partners outside. Of course, even for women's network, the objective is not to work only with women. You have women network because it forces women to take the responsibility inside the organization to learn public speaking, even through during the internal activities, to be able to then build a coalition with all the men and to convince. Also, the issue is trying to reinvent the wheel. Okay, we have a problem because the Chamber of Commerces are 80% male dominated. So how do we achieve that? Before, you can do a brainstorming of your internal ideas, but don't be afraid to look what's been happening in Spain, what's been happening in Estonia in this respects, and use lessons. Build your efforts on the shoulders of whoever came before you on that topic. It needs, and also very often you have young women coming in thinking, okay, but these old women, I have gray hair, but I started networking when I was 30. And when I started, it was very interesting to have intergenerational discussions. What happened before? Why this didn't happen? Can we make it happen now because the context has changed? All this is necessary. Obviously, also having input. I mean, BPW, we are very atypical because we work with Chamber of Commerce, we work with trade unions, we work with employers organization, we lobby mayors, we lobby deputies, we lobby at European level, at international level, we have consultative status in the UN, so we have permanent representation to CSW or to Vienna for the human rights. It's a lot. I've been in the network for 26 years and I still discover new things about it to this day. And also the fact that it's broad like that means that, okay, some clubs open, then they close down, but the work carry on because you have this international and European contact. If I stayed in my own little BPW club that I joined in 1994, I would not have had the career I had because I would have missed learning lessons from Finland, learning lessons from Italy, and doing things in a different way in France because of that.
Thank you very much. It is in fact that we are really, if we want to achieve something, as you mentioned, it's about networking. So this linear pathway is no longer giving us the results. We really have to learn how to work in different networks and just seizing. And for me it's a bit problematic finding the right balance between having a strategy, because strategy you must have, as you mentioned, you have to have a certain goal, but at the same time it's not just about strategy, it's about seeing an opportunity and just grabbing it. It's like a business venture when it comes to lobbying. You see an opportunity and then you have to use that opportunity for lobbying. It's not a strategy is something that guides you, but then you have to take on every different possibilities that are out there. You cannot control those things. Yeah.
I wanted also to say what is not having success, because sometimes success is not going backward and it doesn't show. It's very difficult to explain around you that you've been fighting all these years just to achieve one thing, which is like in the UN discussion between member states, women's rights are still present everywhere because there's been, in the UN, there's a majority of member states which are not democratic. There's a majority of member states where women's rights are like the second citizen kind of thing. And there's been a concerted push since the year 2000 to have women's rights according written in the text as according to local culture and context, which would mean that in some country there would be no right to access to health, for example. And so for 20 years, you feel like you're spending all your energy and time just to maintain the fact that women's rights are human rights. Okay, and sorry, if there's still human rights, women's rights, still women's rights, it's a success.
Definitely, because we are facing this situation where everybody talks about the importance and the untapped potential of women entrepreneurship and all that talk, and at the same time we are constantly struggling not to turn down hills. You know, maintain all what has been done from all these networks and all the organizations like yours in the past, because sometimes we experience that in a certain area we are going downhill, and it's just about stopping that process and then going forward. And it's a constant. You know, one person would expect that today we would not have this conversation, because to everyone, it's clear that women entrepreneurship must be supported, half of the population and all that talk, but we are still discussing about it and still debating, meaning that we haven't finished that job, not even far from what is needed, but it is important that we are continuing and we are working. And I liked what you mentioned about intergenerational. It is similar what we have in our community council. We have let's just say organizations with larger history, working for many decades, but we also have new recently established organizations, because they will continue, they will also join this movement, and it's for them, it's also a peer learning process. You know, just this discussion with you, with other people that has even one more year experience than I have in this field, for me it's a peer learning process. I'm learning from my peers, and that is why I also want to emphasize the peers from US, from Canada, from elsewhere, because they are peers everywhere, and that we should try to exchange our experiences with them. Well, we also mentioned the importance of mentoring. I was wondering, because it's been a while since I had an experience in mentoring women entrepreneurs. Maybe Yulia, you can shed a light on are they interested? Do they reach out? Is there? Do they need a different type of service? Is the approach should be different from the mainstream? I was wondering in that direction, because we also have to think at the policy level on how we are going to ask for more mentoring schemes and support. But we also need to understand the process a little bit better. So maybe you can give us your first-hand experience on that.
Yeah, so we'll talk from our own experience, we'll not generalize it. We've seen that when we opened the doors to European Women Association, and we work quite closely with business angels that are actively looking for female founders for their own quota, whatever the reason might be, but they are looking for them. And most of them are men. And then you see there is like a distance from our female founders to go and ask that guidance and support from this investor / mentor. So we asked in our community, what do you need? So first of all, we have seen there is not everybody dares to ask for support and help. That's the first thing. So it's our own responsibility. We need to learn that we are not, it's not weak to ask for support. It is easier for women to ask for support in your own sisterhood tribe community. For the last 10 years, we built an offline community. So before COVID, and once a month we would come together. And what we measured, that almost 90% of the community here in Belgium was doing business with each other, asking for support with each other. I did not expect that. So what we've seen for the startups and for the small business owners, they could grow thanks to the community and this tribe mentorship. It wasn't the case when we opened door for European Women Association. Suddenly there was distance, online Zoom didn't feel the same. So we do see a gap. And when the next step, women ask for more female mentors. I mean, they already see enough successful examples of male mentors and investors. So we see there is a gap. There is just statistically not enough. So what we are now actively, starting from next month in December, we will promote on our website more ambassadors and mentors of women to join us. We have a certain short description, what kind of type of women we are looking for, who would like to give back and support the female startup community. And we already have 5 people reaching out to me in the last 10 days on LinkedIn. Like, I love the mission, how can I support? Most of them are quite high positioned women in corporate. That's what was interesting, corporate function who wanted to support female founders. So this was our experience. We now realize we need to show more. That's why I'm happy to collaborate with Google on the I Am Remarkable campaign, to have more role models and involve them in the process of mentoring. So there is some steps we need still to take, unfortunately.
Thank you very much for that. We had a program for mentoring. It was basically a European program in 2011. And it was interesting that it was the European Network of Mentors for Women Entrepreneurs. And we were one of those projects. And we were the only project that had a mixture of mentors. So half of them were male and half of them were female. All the others were only mentees, and mentors were women, both of them. So you can imagine on this kickoff event, lots of people in this premises, and only five men from our consortium joining as mentors. So they were thrilled and they were very happy, of course. But it was interesting that our mentees were so smart that they took the best out of the male mentors and out of the female mentors. They needed female mentors for something else, and the male mentor for something else. So it was very, very interesting. At the end, it gave us a very, very interesting results for our mentees. So just to share an additional experience. So we have one question from the audience. I mean, it's a request from Alina. So if Yulia, you can leave your link in the chat for concerning the I think it's Eva basically website. The information will be available there, and we will be very happy to share it in our Mentors and Ambassadors directory of the WEgate. So please, once you have it, share it with us as well, so that we can support that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had one of my mentees through this 2011 program. Thanks, WEgate, one of my first mentees. Well, thank you, Olivia, for sharing that. That initiative was supposed to be continued, but unfortunately, it was for some reason stopped, and we managed to keep the network for a certain while, but afterwards, it really requires a different set of efforts. So thank you for that. Now talking about business support services within the Enterprise Europe Network and supporting women entrepreneurs. I wanted to ask you, Federica, do you have what is your experience? Of course, you work with both female and male entrepreneurs. Is there a need to tailor a little bit differently how we approach women entrepreneurs? Because not everybody wants to go international, and that's quite fine, regardless if they're male or female. I agree with Yulia, and I agree with everything that has been said. Some of the female entrepreneurs, I want to avoid the trap of scalability. Not all women entrepreneurs need to scale. Women entrepreneurs just want to make a living for them, for their families, or just for themselves, to be independent and to do whatever they want with their lives. And that's just quite fine. And that's why I don't like when they ask for scalability if they want to access funding. No, they should be able to access funding even if they don't want to scale. And it is similar with the internationalization. Not everybody wants to go international, but for the ones that wants to go international, do you see a difference in how we approach them, how we organize them, on the other hand, not a negative difference, it might be a positive difference, because my experience is that they connect very well during the events, and they're very good at networking. But what is your experience now after so many years working in the field?
I don't see actually a difference. I mean, I can talk about my experience within the textile sector, of course. There is a huge number of companies managed by women, and they feel very committed about business and about what they wanted to achieve. So when we talk with them, they are very, they really wish to go in deep the details and what they can do to scale up, of course, and to improve their the business. I think that we should differentiate services in the sense that maybe there should be more specific services to really help women to go further. So when we talk about the education related to finance, for example, maybe in that case they have to manage many things in the life. So if they can have we are more concrete, so if they can manage in a concrete way the tools they have at disposal, it will be better for them. So this is the main big difference I can see, because maybe men have more availability to do different things without thinking about too much, but women have to schedule more. This is the difference. So maybe in that way we could be more we could program in a very well different way things and services to provide.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I asked you is that I always believe that, at least it is my opinion, that we should not try to fix women, we should fix the system. And that is why,
Exactly.
why I'm asking, because usually they ask us to fix women, act more like men, go on the matchmaking events and act like men. No, we should fix the system, not the women. And that is the reason why I asked, and we are always thinking about it, how we can approach our clients. But this is not only about women, it's about every client that you have, how I can approach this client differently. But women also have to deal with so many things in work and life balance. And that is the reason why I've asked you, because EN is also a system that is part of the larger system that maybe fixing is a bit hard word, but improving might be the better word.
In fact, if I can add a thing, when I talk about with clients, maybe during the brokerage event, in a very simple way, when I talk to them saying, okay, it's time to schedule your meetings, to open your profile and to request meetings, most of them reply saying, oh my God, I don't have time. So this is the most important. So it's a very tricky thing, but it's like this. We have to schedule in a proper way everything, because if we don't change the system, it will be always the same. We have to do many things.
I agree, especially for that part. I don't have time. I have other examples where nobody is asking me for a meeting and they get angry. Well, you go and ask the best companies for a meeting and don't wait to be chosen, choose.
Exactly.
So it's about motivating a little bit, and not getting too personal about that. But I know what you're saying. It's quite interesting. So now we heard a lot different best practices. So my question to Maria and to all of the other panelists is how we can use them. This peer learning is one of the things. Sharing information, we will do our best to share the handbook, to share everything else, but how we can use these best practices other than the peer learning, because we are really looking at it, and we will also look at this with the W20 group. Okay, we will collect the best practices, we are going to share them, but how we can really capitalize on all these best practices. Maybe you have an idea doing that for a while within the project.
Yes, that was also our question when we prepared the proposal. Okay, we are going to select a lot of good practices, but we have to have in mind what we are going to do with them, not only to disseminate them exactly as you said. That's why we decided to put them somehow in practice. Not only selecting, reading, and gathering knowledge from them, but to try to transfer this knowledge in our centers for women entrepreneurship, what we actually established, and especially in the training programs. When we prepared the training modules, for example, we used not all of the good practices selected, and not all of them as a whole, I mean, as a one, taking what good practice and transferring it into the model. But at least we use some parts of them. And let's say from 43 good practices, we actually used about 20 different parts of these 20 good practices in developing our training models. Training models not only in the content part, but also in a methodology how to approach girls, into methodology how to train them, and to use different tools, which is also very important. In methodology how to select the trainers to be used during the training, because we knew already what type of trainers they expect and what topic they expect. So this is somehow we use part of these good practices. And the other part regarding policy measures, as I said, we use in order to make this policy agenda. The policy agenda also is based on the good practices and includes different recommendations in different directions. One of the group of the policy agenda is related with development of specific measures to support. As I showed you, Women in Business Good Practice is very good example of specific policy measures to support women. So we believe that through this policy agenda, we could influence somehow the policymakers and to try to make them to include such measures in their policies. For example, most of the project partners said that financial measures are needed for supporting young women entrepreneurs in terms of better access of financing. And the good practice that we, for example, from Bulgaria suggested was the one from a municipality of Sofia who has that had a guarantee fund. And if you want to receive a guarantee for accessing credit, you could receive such guarantee from municipality of Sofia. And women in this case has some priorities. So this is also good practice that could be used in other countries, and it will be suggested through the policy agenda. So this is what we think that could be made with these good practices, to try to include them in our activities, to show that they work, and to try to prepare documents, strategies even, and to reach the policymakers who has the tools to implement them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Maria. Definitely, we need some sort of a resource center where we will gather all these best practices on one place, and it is definitely time for a new best practice conference like the one organized for many years by OECD. So it is a good example of basically from the community to the community. That is what you have done with your example of the guarantee fund. There are already existing practices, and we should seek for it. And it's a good thing if we manage to collect as many as possible and then organize them in a certain like groups and categories. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. So thank you for sharing that. If you agree, we can move on. I would like to introduce to you our last guest, our last contributor. We have a video message sent to us by the CEO and the founder of the Women Entrepreneurship Day organization, so Wendy Diamonds. She's the lady and the organization behind this huge initiative, Women Entrepreneurship Day, that we are tributing today actually with this webinar. But before we hear her message, I would like to share with you just a few words for the ones that are not so familiar with Wendy. She's an investor, and it's very interesting that she's passionate about investing in women-led businesses, but in disruptive technologies. So everything dealing with virtual reality, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, so that is blockchain technology, fintech, and things like that. But she's so diverse person. I mean, she is a social entrepreneur. She has authored 10 widely celebrated books. She has, I don't know if you know that, 3 Guinness records, world records. Not to mention that she's a TV personality. She has been on many different shows, but she's also quite active in doing speeches at different universities and different conferences. So I'm very delighted that she took the time to send us her video message and to support us in our celebration of the Women Entrepreneurship Day organization. So I would ask our colleagues to share her video message so that we can listen to Wendy Diamonds.
I'm Wendy Diamond, and I'm thrilled to be here today to celebrate with you Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, WEdo. In 2013, I founded this movement after taking a vacation to Honduras, not realizing it was the murder capital of the world. I ended up volunteering for an organization entitled Attendants, which provides microloans to impoverished women to start their own businesses. These women were earning maybe 50 cents a day if they even had a job. I will always remember this one woman who changed my life. She was 73 years old and she had 3 little kids. I was like, wow, how did you have these 3 little kids? And she told me that her daughter passed away and the husband ran off. So she was responsible for these grandchildren. She received a $100 microloan from Adelante. This enabled her to open up a window in her one-room little hut with the dirt floor where she lived with these kids. And she started selling Cokes and toothpaste with this one window that she had open. She was able to earn enough money to pay for those grandchildren to attend school, $1 a month. Women around the world are paying these microloans back at a 98% rate of return. 90% of the money they earn goes back to educating their children and providing for their families, uplifting the entire communities. We won't talk about where the men put the money. Just kidding. Women worldwide have been historically underpaid, undervalued, underrepresented, underfunded, and underestimated, still to this day. I knew if we could create a simplified movement to uplift the 4 billion women on the planet to create better futures for themselves and ultimately achieve gender equality, we can do it. 7 years later, I'm so proud to say that our We Do movement is stronger than ever. We have an army of over 300 global ambassadors who are volunteering and leading and celebrating our movement in 144 countries. We are empowering women and girls to become active participants in the economy by igniting a network of women leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs to initiate startups, drive economic expansion, and advance communities around the world. Our partnership with WEgate is super exciting as you are joining NASDAQ, the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, Google for Startups, MIT Innovation Labs, Girl Scouts, the Romanian National Confederation for Female Entrepreneurship, and so many more who are coming together to celebrate Women's Entrepreneurship Day. And we are collaborating to bring awareness to our mission to empower the 4 billion women worldwide to be catalysts for change. And let's uplift the 250 million girls living in poverty worldwide. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to affect lives and the livelihoods around the world, we are seeing devastating effects on women-owned businesses that threaten to reverse decades of economic gains for women. With the economic turmoil due to COVID, women and minorities have been the hardest hit economically. Investing in women has never been more critical. Women are the future to economic success and development around the world. Data proves when public companies with at least 30% women in leadership positions are 6% more profitable. But sadly, here in the United States, female-founded companies only receive 2% of venture funding in the US. While gender gaps can cost an economy almost 15% of the GDP, a scenario in which women play an identical role in labor markets to that of men in all countries around the world. As much as 28 trillion or 26% could be added to the global annual GDP by 2025. Global economic reports have shown that women have been the main driving force of economic growth in the last few decades, and it is critical that we continue to support to drive even more growth in decades to come. Women are an undeniable and incredible force, and by uplifting and empowering women, we uplift communities and economies around the world. Thank you so much for supporting our movement and mission. Women's Entrepreneurship Day is every day. Support, empower, and celebrate women in business. Woohoo! Together, we can change the world. Grateful.
Women Entrepreneurship Day is every day. I agree about that. Thanks to Wendy for this very inspirational message. And we have slowly come to the end of this gathering. And this I'm very sorry that we have to close down in a while. I would just like to invite my panelists if they would like to share some additional words with our audience. So if any of you would like to share a few thoughts at the end, or we just wrap up, and I will just use this opportunity to thank all the participants, to thank my panelists, my contributors, my guests. Thank you so much for being today to be with us today. I hope that you all enjoyed the presentations and the discussion, and that you will join us soon on our next peer learning webinars. But in the meantime, I would like to invite you all to take part in our first WEgate annual summit. So we're going to have the annual summit on the 10th of December. The registration is open. You can join us. You can find more information on our web platform, WEgate.eu. So we are going to have a whole day, different types of sessions. We are going to have a session dedicated to policy dialogue. We're going to have workshops. We're going to talk about access to finance. We're going to talk about success stories. But even more important, we are going to have a dedicated matchmaking session. So together with Enterprise Europe Network, we're going to have a two hours matchmaking session where women entrepreneurs and all other participants can have pre-scheduled meetings, virtually of course, and find new contacts, new business partners, and broaden their networks, because that is what we were talking about today, about coalition building, about networking, and about being together in these difficult times, but in general, of course. I hope to see you all there, and in the meantime, I wish you all the best, keep well, and thank you once again, and goodbye.
Thank you, Gabriela, for making this happen. I know how challenging it may be to bring us all together from different countries. You did actually a very, very great job. So thank you, especially to you, Gabriela.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Yulia. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.